Hi, welcome to Diva Yoga Live. I'm Elena, and today's video is all about yin yoga for your spine. So yoga for your spine is very important because we go through day to day with back pains, sitting at a desk, kind of texting. We have this whole text neck thing. So today's yin yoga video, we're going to just work the spine forward, backwards, and in some twisting directions. So let's go ahead and get started. You might want to have a block handy. I always like to have some props nearby. So we're going to hold each pose for just a couple breaths. So if you need to hold it for longer, go ahead, pause the video and stay into this pose. This is a really great practice for anyone just starting their yin journey. So hope you enjoy it. We're going to start and come into our caterpillar pose. So legs are coming right on in front of us. You can move the flesh away from your hip bones. Maybe putting a block under your bum as well kind of gives you a little raise up. If you have super tight hamstrings, you might have your knees bent a tiny bit here. A blanket under there can also help. So the intention for this pose is working more of our back than necessarily hinging forward for the hips. So this pose may look a little different from what you typically practice maybe in a yin class because we're just focusing on our spine here. So for this pose, if you do have flexibility in the hips, you can fold forward and then round the spine. If you don't have much flexibility in your legs, just round the spine. We're gonna hang out here, so we're getting that nice movement and the rounding of our spine. So kind of find what works for you. I am kind of flexible in the hips, so I'm gonna get both benefits out of this pose. It's up to you. And maybe placing a block here for a little bit of support. Take a couple breaths. Notice how the spine is feeling. If you have any tension in the spine, send your breath there and kind of use it to open up that space. And to come out of it, just slowly rising up one vertebra at a time and coming back to that nice tall spine. We'll transition into a tabletop next. So work the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees here. And if you need to, you can do a couple cat and cow movements. Just inhale, head and tailbone go high, belly drops. Exhale, round. And then come back to neutral. So we're gonna come into thread the needle pose, a nice twist for our upper spine and opening the shoulders. Let's inhale that right arm up to the sky, really reach here. And exhale, send that hand through the space on the left-hand side. Head comes down to maybe the mat. Maybe you grab the block, or maybe you just have a blanket here. And we're gonna sink into this pose. This left arm can be hanging out here. If you wanna take a bind and open up that left shoulder a little bit, you can place the top of the hand onto the low back, or you can stretch it out in front of you. Totally up to you. I'm just gonna rest mine here. Couple breaths. And when you're ready, just bringing that left hand back to the mat, pushing up. Inhale that right arm back up to the sky. And exhale the hand back down to the mat. And we'll readjust and we'll switch sides. So inhale that left arm up to the sky. And exhale, thread the needle through the space on the right. Hips still in line with the knees here. And if you want to take that bind with the right hand, go ahead. Sink in here for a few breaths. Again, just finding our edge of what feels good. We're not over twisting into this. Just being able to find a nice relaxing pose. All right, so if that right hand's in a bind, bring it back down to the mat. Use that arm to push yourself back up. Inhale the left arm up to the sky. And exhale the hand back down. So we're gonna stay in the same position here. We want the hips right over the knees for our next pose. So we're gonna come into puppy pose, or what's called melting heart and yin. If this is maybe too challenging for you, I'm gonna give you an alternative as well. This is a great place for a bolster or some props. So keeping our hips right in line with our knees, you just start to walk the hands forward, reaching for the corners of your mat. And we're gonna find a nice bend in our upper spine. And so you can let the head come down, the forehead to the mat. Or if you want that curve in your cervical spine or the neck, you can place the chin down on the mat. So I really enjoy putting maybe a bolster or block under my chest so my shoulders aren't really feeling so intense, especially if you have tight shoulders. So this helps kind of lift you up a bit. Still getting that nice bend in the back. You can also do what's called half puppy pose, which is just letting one forearm come down to the mat, resting your head on it, and letting the other arm outstretch. So you would just have to do this twice, one on both sides, if that is the pose for you. So sink in here. Again, trying to relax into it. Getting into our joints and connective tissue. And you come out of it, just start to lift your head, come back up, walk the hands back towards you. Maybe you do some cat and cows here, shift the hips side to side, find whatever movement you need. And we're gonna push ourselves back to a child's pose. So knees come wide, toes touch, and sink the hips back towards the heels. Arms outstretched in front of you, head comes to the mat. If you're having trouble getting the hips to the heels, can maybe stack your fists here, or maybe grab a block to rest your head on. So releasing the spine here, take a couple breaths, let those shoulders relax. And from our child's pose, we're gonna make our way to the mat. So you can just come up, find a seat, and transition into a laying down position. So we're gonna twist our spine now. There's two options here that I'll let you choose which works for you. So you can bring the knees into the chest, give them a little hug here, massage that low back. We're gonna take that right leg and let it go long. And you can hug this left knee in. And we're just going to guide it over towards the right side. So your leg might come to the mat, it might need a little help. Great place for a block here if you need some help. And arms can come into a T or a goal post, and you can gaze away from that leg. So this is one option. The second option is just bringing both knees into the chest and letting them drop over to the side. So that one's a little easier, maybe not as intense, but it just depends on your body. So sink in here for a few moments. Just trying to find some ease in this pose. And just coming back to center, maybe bringing both those knees back into the chest, rocking back and forth one more time. And this time let that left leg go long, hug that right knee in, and guide it over towards that left side. Maybe grabbing that prop if you need it. Letting the arms go into a T or a goal post. You can gaze towards or away from the knee. Or if you want more of a restorative twist, both knees over to the left side. Take a couple breaths. And just work your way back to center. You can let the legs go long and the arms go long to find your final rest or Shavasana pose. I hope you enjoyed this yin yoga sequence for your spine, and I hope it relieves any tension or pain you had in your back. If you want to see other videos for your back or yoga in general, be sure to hit subscribe and leave me any comments you have below. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.